Today I want to touch on a few different topics bundled into one, going into a flow state chat. I'm going to be talking about in human design, line 2, the natural, otherwise known as the hermit, and I'm going to be talking about the mind, consciousness, and our subconscious or unconscious represented in human design specifically. The unconscious and the conscious aspects. So I'll start off with the conscious aspects, which is our mind, who we think we are, and what we think we want, and who we think we are, how we think we represent ourselves, the talents we think we have. Everything is there. This mind that we possess, our consciousness, is a very highly influential aspect to ourselves. But the mind and consciousness is really only in all of its importance, it's the passenger of the unconscious vehicle, being the body and how the body moves us. Other people can look in and recognize that unconscious aspect of ourselves. It's represented in the way we move through the world because it is driving, or it is the vehicle rather. It's the vehicle that we're going around in. That's not to say it's just it's physical. It's how we physically manifest. And the driver or the vehicle is really running the show. And we have this kind of tug of war, or we have this unconscious influence, which will be driving along in the vehicle, and the mind, who we think we are, our personality, is constantly trying to take the wheel of the car and try and pull it this way and pull it that way, and be wondering why. It's like those race cars in the arcades where, you know, you're trying to drive but the steering wheel is kind of like doing its own thing and it's sort of driving itself, and you're like not really sure if you're really driving it or not. Like it kind of takes, you know, it has this resistance and this control and this pull against you as the driver. And that's very much like how this unconscious and conscious aspect is working together. The conscious car is the vehicle, is just trying to drive along, and you've got the conscious mind trying to pull the wheel, steer the wheel, like not really sure like why it's not exactly going where you think you're trying to make it go. And what human design affords us is to have close, specific visibility on that unconscious aspect, which we can then begin to recognize within ourselves. And we can, in fact, start to see the blueprint, the energetics, the mapping of that unconscious quite specifically, and how it interacts with our mind and our personality and who we think we are. So now to talk about the natural, or the hermit. I'm pulling this line out specifically because it's one of my lines, and it is also my unconscious line. With the line 2 beings, the line 2 is a hermit. We kind of are wanting to hold back, or, you know, be away from the fray, and we need to have a lot of alone time, or time to work on our crafts or our skills or our talents, or those things that come innately and natural to us. We need people to call us out, basically. At some point in our life we get called out, and we'll get called out all the time. People will say, hey, you're actually really good at music, like you should really sing, like you should write songs, why aren't you doing more of that? And while that might be true, or you know, you might want to follow that call, you'll know when the time is right. There will be a time that comes where there's a specific call which pulls that line 2 out of its hermit phase and can share its talent. But with the line 2, not all calls are the correct call. You may get many calls in your life of people trying to pull you out or interfere with your process before you are ready for it, or when it's not the right call. So it's about, you know, trusting that body's instinct. And when the body wants to hold back and be in its solitude or its hermitage while it's waiting or working on its crafts, we need to resist being called out too early. But in actual fact, like, you won't have too much trouble resisting, because you won't be able to follow through on the calls if they're made prematurely, unless there's a whole lot of force from the mind, force from the personality, and from the conscious aspect. That is why for hermits, for line 2s, for the natural, human design can be so advantageous to really get to know that unconscious aspect and get to know themselves as that line 2 being. There can also be a conscious line 2 being, of course, and the lines in human design show up in lots of different places within the design chart. So you can have your sun or your earth be in those lines, but they can also show up anywhere down in any of the other planetary activations. So you might be a person that has line 2s in your chart, even if it's not your top sun or earth position. And you can have, line 2 in your conscious aspect, where your mind is. So you may really resonate and see yourself as that hermit, and know that about yourself, know that about your nature. And you might, be quite selective and pulling away or holding back the interference with your need for that alone time to digest information and to discover your skills. That doesn't necessarily change the way that you would need to still be called out for your gifts and called out to reveal your talents to everyone. You're just going to have more consciousness of it. But again, if you've got that line 2, even in that conscious line, you want to understand your unconscious and what that line value is, and what the body is actually directing you to do, and how the body is body wants to play this game, this system, this realm. When we're talking about that unconscious and conscious, the body and the mind, it's really a process of decoupling or undoing, which you can never really do. Like, we're always part of the context and the influence of what we're experiencing, and that program, we can never really be without that program influencing us. But in terms of how the mind thinks that it's running the show, decoupling, in a sense, what the mind is thinking and what you think you should be doing and what who you think you are, and just allowing the body to show itself, to reveal itself, and to take you. So literally the physical being allowing it to take you where you need to go, seeing whatever your authority is, which belongs in your body, and how that authority is guiding you. And in life, like, it's a big word, dilemma. I'm trying to use the word dilemma, it's just coming in, that people are running around very much thinking that they're the mind, and pushing through or forcing through, doing what they think they should be doing, trying to look for logic, trying to look for reason, trying to copy other people, trying to meet expectations, and do all of this work from the mind, from the head, from a strategic point of view, when really the body is gonna do its own thing. And if you allow that, if you sit your mind down and you see yourself, you witness yourself from that passenger perspective, so from that conscious passenger of your body's vehicle, allowing and just watching what the body does, and say, what do I do every day when I wake up? Like, where do I want to go? Who am I with? What is the task at hand? What is actually going on, without the mind trying to be the director? And I'm in that process now of that pure trust, that pure faith. It doesn't always make sense. I can't always assign reason, and things can get clouded in the mind, judgments and criticisms, and this doesn't make sense. And then you can get a lot of echoes, especially with an open head center, as I have. You can get a lot of cloudiness, murkiness, things that you're picking up from other people, narratives that are common narratives that may be playing out, and they're constantly trying to interfere with the vehicle, who's just trying to, the body is just trying to go where the body's trying to go. So I'm in that process now. I never know where I'm up to. I'm always giving myself more, counting more time than maybe I have. But I'm going to say I'm 4 years into a 7-year deconditioning cycle. And that pure trust and pure faith, I've talked about this before, like one of the big things that I feel in my body is less anxiety and less fear. I like to call this fearless faith. Fearless faith. Fearless faith that the body is going to take me exactly where it needs to go, and then I'm just experiencing life, witnessing the body move where it needs to go, and patiently waiting for the right call that's going to pull me out of that line to hermit phase, or that I will, show my natural gifts, show my natural talents. But that goes for any line too. So there can be, as a natural, if you can recognize that you've got skills in certain things, or you do have these natural talents, there can also be, this is again my experience of sometimes finding traditional study a bit boring. Like, I'm a study fiend. I love to read and I love to learn, and I'm constantly consuming and letting things come into my field. But there's an innate knowing and innate sort of knowledge that can't really be taught, and that other people don't really get to access. And that line two-ness really, as you're learning things, you're like, I know. That's also the gate 23, but not to pull it off too much. There's an innate knowing in that line too that really can't be taught. And so, there's a bit of a mix going on when I'm talking about from my experience. I'm a manifesting generator as well. And so there can be this process of, yes, skipping steps, but also because there's a resonance and a recognition with a lot of information and experiences and just the world generally, and things that happen in the world. There's just this natural knowingness that we're not necessarily as gripped onto every single nook and cranny, because there's just a feeling of familiarity with that line 2 nature. And what needs to happen, what I feel needs to happen with my particular line 2 is a lot of it's selectivity. For any line 2, we are highly selective. We are selective about our environment and our food and our friendships and all of the things that are there in life. We don't want it all. We want very specific things. And there's this kind of shielding that I find, it's a natural shielding as well, to say what we want and what we don't want. And when we know what we don't want, we really don't want it. Don't give it to us. We're not looking for it. It's very specific. And that kind of shield and protectiveness enables us to spend the time and go through the process of developing those natural skills, developing that awareness into states where we will be ready when we're asked to display those skills. It's also very personal. I should say that it's quite personal, this line 2 natural giftedness. So I find singing is such a pleasure, and songwriting is also something that comes naturally and easy. But when I'm songwriting for myself, or out of tune, or I'm singing for myself, I can hear my voice. Sorry, there's a reversing van which is beeping. I can hear a nicer resonance in my voice when no one is around, when no one else can hear it. And then if I'm called out and somebody says sing us a song, Natalie, my voice may become a bit shaky. I might forget my words. I may not be able to play the song on guitar the whole way through. All of these things start to happen, which are different. It's a different experience. And sometimes that line 2, natural selectiveness, it can be seen, it can be recognized from the outside, but it doesn't always translate into something that either is of value or of service to anybody else. It doesn't mean that as a singer or a songwriter I'm going to be famous or make money from that. But what I notice my body doing is that it wants to share, because it wants to show other people that there's a personal process going on, and it wants to empower and encourage other people to spend the time and invest in their natural skills and talents if they have that line too. And again, it's, you know, you can make a conscious decision to pay attention to your body. So it's, the mind has to, and the conscious personality aspect of you has to let go of the wheel, let go of the reins, and stop trying to pull it away from the body, but allowing the body to develop its talents and develop its skills, even if it seems like it makes no sense, even if it's highly individual and you can't like quantify the value of what it is that you're either creating or like skilled at. You know, you may not become like the most famous cake seller at the stall. You know, you may be an amazing baker, but you may only be able to like bake your own cake for yourself on your own time, in your own privacy, and share it with the selective people that get to experience it. And all of that is obviously perfectly fine. Like, we've got so many different aspects and variations. It's about becoming familiar with your unconsciousness and how that body is directing you into your life. And it's, you know, that's where I'm saying that decoupling from, you know, the mind may tell you that it has to go do something today, and the body is like not taking you there, and the body is trying to pick up some paints and paint. You may feel it in your, you just feel it in the body, like what it is that you need, what it is that you need to do to express and expand with your natural skills. They need development, and they need time, and they need space and privacy and those things there. So I think that will round up my talk today. My personality mind does want to deliver some things that are more structured, but the body's not doing it. The body is taking the opportunity when I have this space. Like I've always found the car some, you know, type of private space, even though people can see in, and this is so line 2. This is so line 2. And I'm an observed person, so I really don't have a problem with people looking in at the car and me like talking to the camera. But I think I used to be more nervous of that. But that's part of that decoupling, like where my mind might take me in being concerned with what's going on outside. Now that I trust my body to do what it needs to do and take me where I need to go, and I just witness that my body is happy to film and talk to the camera in here. Again, that's my 1-8, so I don't need to go through all my chart, and I'm going to say things that make no sense and have no context, because I'm bringing, I'm just doing the best that I can with what I've got. One of the earlier videos. And as part of that deconditioning process, that's probably the thing that I'll come to and land on. The deconditioning process, and this process of decoupling, and this process of trusting the body and having fearless faith, it takes time. And you can't plan it. So if your mind space might be trying to give you a set of logical steps, a certain amount of money that you need to make, or you want to make, or you have these expectations that you need to have success look a certain way, or to be satisfied with a certain look of things, but you're really not actually satisfied. You're not really feeling the that transformed kind of energy. I think I'm getting confused here, but with the, what am I trying to say? The body will feel a sense of ease. The body will relax, and the body will, it's the nervous system. The nervous system really relaxes, and it's following that state of relaxedness even through the doubts or the questioning or the concerns that come from the mind. And as you practice this, yes, it takes time, but you can't necessarily predict or map the way that it's going to look. And so having that trust, that deep trust, like the more you go into it and the more you deepen into that sense of trust in the body, the clearer things become. The more clarity, the more ease, the more or the less resistance that your body will experience. And you will start to recognize that, because now you're training that witness and training that perspective and that awareness from the mind, rather than the mind trying to like pull the steering wheel out of the hand. So I'm not sure if I actually landed on that, but it is there's just an unpredictability about it, and feeling at ease, trusting the body is really the only way to get through that unpredictability of not knowing how things are going to look or how they're coming up. But you know you're being true to yourself. If you want support with any of this, if you're a line 2, if you're a natural, if you just want to understand your conscious and unconscious aspects, I do readings, consults, using your human design chart. Check out my website, Natural Flow Alchemy. And yeah, speak to you soon. Bye.